Right, good evening, everybody. It being 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, September 16th, 2021, we will begin our meeting for the Committee of Ways and Means. All votes will be by roll call. So if you would like to speak, please use the raise hand function. If there are members of the public in attendance this evening, please email us comments or questions to our town council inbox, towncouncil@braintreema.gov. And we will get your questions answered for you. So with that, Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please.
Council Barrica.
Here.
Council Ryan.
Here.
Council Connors is not attending this evening. Councilor Flaherty.
Here.
Council Sasha.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk Semino. All right, moving on to approval of minutes. We have May 17th, 2021 and May 19th, 2021. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of May 17th and May 19th, 2021?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Flaherty. Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please.
Council Barrica.
Yes.
Council Ryan.
Aye.
Council Connors is not present. Council Flaherty.
Yes.
Council Sasha.
Yes.
4 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. We have no old business this evening. Our new business is 21041, Town Clerk polling locations or take up any action relative thereto. Thank you, Clerk Casey, for joining us this evening. I think we have a lot of familiarity with this this item on tonight's agenda. So Clerk Casey, if you're amenable, I would offer to just open it up for questions from our members, because I know you presented us with a very thorough packet of material, which I'm sure we've all reviewed.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just that at the end, if I can make a statement, that'd be fine, or I can do it up front, your choice.
If you would like to make a statement now, that's fine. Go right ahead.
Okay, I'll do the statement now. Over the past year, 4 polling location options have been discussed, with one a town-wide voting center being quickly rejected, and members of the council temporarily adopting the district voting center option for the fall 2020 elections due to the COVID pandemic. Over the winter months, 2 additional hearings were held in April of this year, members extended the district voting center option through the 2021 election season due to the COVID rise in cases. This evening, I am asking members to decide on the future direction of polling locations in Braintree. And I do this for these reasons. Within the next 3 weeks, I am expecting to be before the council to provide members with the new 2021 census map, and I'm looking for direction as to where to place the polling locations prior to requesting council adoption of the new voting district lines. In fact, I just received the packet for the census this evening. As part of the administrative process for the 2020 census project, all households having a registered voter whereby a change in polling location that has occurred is required to be notified. An administrative and financial opportunity presents itself at this time, and that would allow me to save upwards to $5,000 in expenses by combining this required notification with the 2022 annual town household census, mailing required in January of each year. I am currently in the beginning planning stage of this annual project and would like to take advantage of this savings opportunity. As you're all aware, I am a strong advocate for the 3 district voting centers. Under the most extreme conditions, district voting centers prove their effectiveness and their ability to move voters efficiently to the polling centers without creating long voter lines. With increased administrative oversight, real-time voter check-in to validate that multiple ballots were not cast by a voter through the use of technology, allowing sharing of election knowledge amongst wardens. New and less experienced wardens have immediate access to the experienced warden to resolve voter issues rather than be stranded on an island by themselves to resolve these issues. Reducing financial and staffing requirements, minimize police support of elections from 24 shifts to 6 shifts, realizing a savings of over $10,000 per election in police department costs. Lessen election support of schools, reducing the number of polling locations in school buildings from 8 to 3. Providing for a safer environment, more open space to facilitate social distancing. And administratively places the town in a stronger position in the years ahead when same-day voter registration and other voter changes are approved by legislation. I believe it is in the best interest of voters and the town to permanently adopt the 3 voting center districts and place these past 3 elections, and that will be in use for this upcoming November 2nd local election. And that is to maintain consistency in polling location and place in the town in a favorable position as new elections laws are passed. I ask for a favorable recommendation this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much, Clerk Casey. With that, I will open it up to members for questions. Councilor Clary.
Okay, so pardon me, my computer froze for a period of time while Clerk Casey was talking. So if this is repetitive, I apologize, but I need to know. First of all, I need you to confirm that what we're recommending tonight is to be a permanent change in our locations.
Yes, it is for a permanent change.
Okay, the second thing is, have we had, has the state legislature mandated early in-person voting for elections?
They have mandated it for state elections. They did not mandate it for local elections. As I stated at our meeting about a week or so ago,
Okay,
it's a local option.
so there's been no change on that. And then also mail-in balloting. Have they made a ruling on how mail-in balloting will be handled going forward?
Mail-in ballot is for local election. The state has said that the community should have mail-in ballots. However, they have an opt-out clause that they could utilize, which I went over last week or the week before that. For the state elections, it's going to be a requirement. The difference between local elections and the state mandated elections is the state will mail out applications to all the voters. For the local option, the voter is required to request an early vote by mail ballot. And just for your knowledge, we have received several of them already for this election.
I think we might have lost Councilor Flaherty, so I'm going to just wait a minute. Thank you for bearing with us, the technical difficulties.
Her screen says connecting. She's trying to get back in.
Thank you. That is frustrating for her, I'm sure. Although on an up note, I think this is the first time in 18 months we have had this technical difficulty like this. So that's pretty remarkable.
And it is.
Sue, can Julia dial in?
Yeah, I told her to do that. I'm not sure what she's doing at this point. I sent her the link and webinar ID and phone number. Oh, that might be her. Hold on. Let me just check.
Counselor Flaherty, I think we have you back. I think you're on mute. And I believe it's star. Oh, there you go. Great. Good, because I couldn't remember the unmute key. Welcome back.
Well, thank you. I apologize for that. It looks like I'm going to have all the problems.
That's quite all
Maybe I should
right. It's
go with the phone
amazing
from now
that
on.
this is the first time this has happened in 18 months, so no problem.
Okay. I don't know if I missed something, but I was asking, if the mail-in balloting was going to be mandated, and Clerk Casey had explained that it was not mandated for local elections, but, and then it cut out.
Okay, I'll start from the beginning, Counselor. Okay, for local elections, I'm going to go for the in-person. The in-person local election is an option, an opt-in option for local communities. And it's the town clerk is the one who makes the recommendation. As we talked about at the last council meeting, that
Yep.
I do not believe that we should be doing that, and the vote was taken. For in-person state elections, so those are the ones that are going to be in 2022, September and November, that will be mandated. For the September one, it'll be mandated up to 7 days, and for the November, it'll be up to 14 days. Mail-in voting for the local communities. As I stated 2 weeks ago, that the state recommends that communities have it, but it gives the communities an opt-out clause to not have it. We chose to have it ourselves in the town of Braintree. For the states, it's going to be vote by mail, in addition, by mail, early vote by mail, and vote in person. And these are mandated by the state. The difference for vote by mail locally is the voter themselves have to send in an application. The applications are online on the state Secretary of State's website, and they're available at Town Hall. As I stated, there have been several received in my office so far over the last couple of days. For the state, they will be mailing out the postcard next year, sometime in August. So people just have to return the postcard as they did last year. So that's how it's going to be working.
Okay, so at the state level, there will be mandated mail-in balloting that we have to require. Not that we won't be able to do in-person elections, but mail-in balloting will be mandated, and at the state level, in-person early voting will also be mandated.
That is correct.
Okay, but at the local level, mail-in balloting is an opt-in program, and the in-person early elections is at the discretion of the town clerk.
Correct.
Okay,
But for-
I understand.
Okay, just for this, just so the people out in the audience are confused, that for this November 2nd election, we will be having early vote by mail. They just need to obtain a early vote application online on the town website, Secretary of State's website, I'll just come into the office and they can pick one up.
Okay.
Any other questions, Counselor Flaherty?
Not from me right now.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Shasha, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Clerk Casey, is there any reason to be considering this now other than what you just mentioned in terms of the some cost savings in terms of having to send notices out to people anyway due to the census? In other words, there's no electoral reason until
there's
next year,
there's
right?
never an electoral reason. The reason why I'm requesting is because I am going to be presenting to you within the next couple of weeks the new census map. Okay, and typically we place the polling locations on the map. So it's either I'm going to be placing 3 voting centers, 12 voting centers, 6, or some other number, and with their location. So the map, when it is published, people will know exactly where the voting areas are within their polling locations. And that's what I'm trying to get accomplished there. But no matter what we do, we have to make a decision for 2022. Okay, and this is an opportunity to stop kicking the can down the road, and then also take advantage of some savings because I'm going to have to notify people anyways of changes. There are going to be changes in people's polling locations based on the new census. Additional 2,000 residents have come into town. Polling locations have moved, so I have to notify them. I prefer to do that notification where I can save up to $5,000 through the January annual census that we send out versus sending out individual postcards to households that are impacted. So this is why I am looking at doing it. It's twofold, and it's the time to do it.
Okay, all right, thank you. So actually one follow-up question, because now you have me curious. If we decided to stick with the individual polling locations permanently, what would you put on the map right now?
Okay,
The
if
12 or the
back-
3?
Okay, if we're going to go back to the 12 individual ones, is that what you're speaking of?
Hypothetically, if that was
Hypothetically, okay.
Right.
Up until yesterday morning, precinct 1A, it was going to be at the Marge Crispin Center. That's where it was in the past. However, I've heard that location may be in jeopardy over the next couple of years, that it may not become available as a voting center. So I'm rethinking that particular one, and I'm not sure where I'm going to put that at this point in time. Most likely, I'm going to go to the high school. District 1B would be the Flaherty School, where it has been in the past. District 2A, which is the Hollis School, it would continue to be there.
Right. So I guess my question is in terms of publishing the new map, which is what you said you were going to be doing in short order, would you publish a map with 12 polling locations, knowing that for this year we're going to have 3? And what would you actually publish for a map?
The map is for next year in 2022. It doesn't impact 2021. So I'm publishing the map for next year so people will know exactly where their voting locations are going to be. In addition, like I said, it requires a notification to those who are impacted. So something has to be on the
You would
map.
not make any mention of the temporary 3 polling locations.
I would not make. What is going to be the temporary location?
No, I'm saying it's because right now what we have right now is a temporary setup, right?
Oh,
The
that's
3
correct.
polling right?
That's right.
So you would not reference that at all.
I would
even
not,
though it's being published at a time where that's still in effect.
Because the current temporary condition expires on December 31st. So we need to clear up that indecision of where the polling locations are going to be. We got to place those on the map so the voters in Braintree have an idea where they will be going.
Okay, all right. So, as far as my perspective on what we're voting on here, I am still not sold on the 3 locations. I think I could be convinced for 6, but I also would like to push back on the notion that if we don't make this decision right now, we're kicking the can down the road. We have these temporary polling locations set up because we're still in the middle of a pandemic. And just from a philosophical perspective, I understand how the census changes things, but generally making permanent decisions in the middle of a pandemic is not ideal. And we're still sitting here on a Zoom call instead of in person. And the same people that will be affected by these changes are the same people that have let us know they have trouble getting onto Zoom calls and are less likely to participate. I understand why you want to do this now, but until the more global situation clears itself up, I don't think this is the right time, and I don't really see any harm in waiting till this pandemic clears to make a more permanent decision. That's it. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Councilor Shasha. Clerk Semino, I want to make sure I recognize Councilor Ryan if he would like to speak.
No comment right now.
Okay, thank you, Clerk Semino. Thank you, Councilor Ryan. I think just in the interest of having a discussion on this, Councilor Shasha, I agree with you that I'm very torn on the 3 centers. However, I don't think anything's going to change fundamentally between now and the end of the year when we absolutely have to make this decision. And I also want to acknowledge that as we all sat here, 3 or 4 months ago, agonizing over the budget, $5,000 is still $5,000, and this mailing has to go out no matter what. And I think the third point I've been thinking about throughout this conversation is, I don't know that, I think the pandemic accelerated this decision for the town, but I'm not sure it would have not been inevitable. So I'm just putting that out there. I don't know if being in a pandemic or not would change the notion of the clerk's request to, and maybe Clerk Casey, you can speak to this, to consolidate the voting locations, or was it just timing and circumstance? Because this is something you've asked for in the past, am I right?
Okay, I've been the town clerk since 2014 and evaluating all of the functions within the department. We have made a number of changes to improve the efficiency of the way the department runs. One of the shortfalls I've seen in the election department were antiquated voting tabulators, which I got those replaced. I replaced a lot of the equipment within it, and you'll find in your handout, and one of the things, it says barriers for disabled voters there. They recommended about how election officials have become more aware of the barriers, but have placed new technology into the voting areas to help those who have disabilities. So with these changes I'm making have a great impact based on this report that was published by the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. In addition, one of them, they talked about moving to polling locations to larger areas. And again, this falls into assisting those with disabilities. Granted, the problem with transportation, that's going to be everywhere, whether you're in 12 locations, 6 locations, or 3 locations. Polling locations aren't built on bus routes. They're built on buildings of size that will accommodate voters. So we're moving into this year, but I've been looking at this going back to 2017. I floated the idea of the one central polling location up at the high school. Technically, I believe that can work. And I see that as a community event that all voters were there, but I understand your concerns about one complete location. So I stepped back from that, and maybe 20 years from now, that's eventually will be at that. But I think for this town, at this time, 3 voting centers are going to work, and they're going to be more effective. We've all heard on the state legislators that they're talking about same-day voter registration. With that, that means I'm going to have some electronics in the polling location so we can track a new person who comes in who wants to vote on election day, to look them up and identify them. I can either do that with 12 buildings with 12 set of equipment, or I can do it with 3 set of equipment in a voting center. That equipment costs about $15,000 per building. I already own the 3 for the voting centers. So I'm short 9 additional ones if we go with the polling location. So I'm looking at the financials over a long-term time, but I'm also looking for the administrative control and to ensure the integrity of the election process. By having it consolidated, we have much more staffing and experienced staffing to assist in these changes. While we're individual, we do have a problem. Just for this election here, I lost 35 experienced voters. 8 of them were my wardens. So for this election, I have 4 experienced wardens. They're going to be split up amongst the 3 centers to assist some of the newbies who are coming in to take over that position. And if I had polling locations, they're going to be fending by themselves. And it's not that easy of a job to maintain that and to ensure that the voter maintains their right to cast a ballot. There's a lot of layers to go through that process. This way here, I think that it benefits the town, it benefits the voters, and I think it's the best thing that the town could do. Now, I just want to just correct something I may have stated or not, is that we do need to make a decision this year by December 31st, whether it's on Tuesday night before the council, but it's going to have to be done by December, middle of December. Actually, even before that time, because I have to report to the state of where our precincts are going to be, because we have to update all the voter registration in the state system. So that's something that we have to have a decision on. So again, there's a lot of administrative layers that are behind the scenes that are going to be accomplished. And this is what I'm trying to maintain. But at the same time, save the town $5,000. I think it's a way that we can do it.
Clerk Casey, I have a question, unless Councilor Shasha or Councilor Flaherty want to jump in first. Okay, can you remind me, and I can't find it in my files, unfortunately, quickly enough. Can you just give me the high level bullet points on what is the objection to 6 voting centers that, is it the administrative cost for 6?
No, the 6, the administrative cost naturally is less than 12, but more than 3. However, looking at buildings within districts that can accommodate the number of voters in those smaller buildings does not work. Like for District 1, I would eliminate the Flaherty School because Flaherty School cannot accommodate 2. So I would be moving up probably into the high school for that
Okay.
district. Okay, Hollis School would be used, East Middle School for District 3. District 4 would be East Middle School. District 3 would be the Hollis School.
Ross is District 3, I think.
Ross, yeah, I'm sorry, I get my schools mixed up. Ross would be District 3. South would be District
6.
6. And Town Hall would be 5. Okay, that's what I'd have to use there. But what I just said is that 3 of those 6 are the voting centers. So
Understood. Yep, okay.
so now we can do more consolidation and more savings.
Counselor Flaherty, did you have a comment or a question?
Yeah, I basically just wanted to say that I agree with Councilor Barrica that the pandemic, I think, accelerated this decision. We made the decision now because initially the 3 voting centers offered some features that would help us conduct the elections safely under pandemic circumstances. But the reasons to maintain the change or decide whether we want to maintain the change are all outside of the pandemic, of pandemic conditions. I have some faith that these special circumstances presented by the pandemic will eventually go away. But my reasons for all the reasons I can think of for supporting or not supporting a change either to 3 or 6 have nothing to do with the pandemic and everything to do with other issues. I would also note that the school department sent their support in for moving to 3 locations. For these reasons, I'm prepared to support the move to 3 district voting centers. That's all.
Yeah, thank you, Counselor Flaherty. Thank you for bringing up the school support as well. I know we haven't touched on that yet, so appreciate that comment. Counselor Ryan? All good, okay. Counselor, do you have any other comments at this time?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Yeah, I think where I'm really struggling with this is, knowing that Braintree Town Hall in particular is the voting center where there are also a higher proportion of low-income residents, many of whom do not have cars, many of whom are disabled, and many of whom I have personally continued to hear from about wanting to be able to vote at Braintree Town Hall. And to me, I take seriously the recommendation of the school department for sure, but no matter what, all the schools are going to have to be closed on election day. And I can support a move to 6 voting centers, which feels like a compromise, although I understand and still am conflicted because I don't want to keep changing this on people. But I do feel strongly that residents in the broader South Braintree Square neighborhood, again, whom are proportionately lower income by almost half the median income of the town, have easy access to an on-site polling location.
Madam Chairman, if I may,
Please go ahead, Clerk Casey.
one of the things with addressing those who do not have vehicles, who may be disabled, or other barriers to get to a polling location, the number of voting options has expanded considerably over the past several years. And there are different other options that are being still thrown on the table. Naturally, everybody has election day. We saw in the graph that you have in your handout for the presidential election, we went from nearly 20,000 voters who voted on election day in a polling location down to 8,000 people who showed up on election day at one of the vote polling locations. So we see that decline. That has declined whether it was a state general election or a local election. You can see the trends. We do always have the absentee by mail and in person. That has been expanded during the COVID, naturally, but whether those other two additional conditions for them to apply for an absentee ballot would, if they go away, nothing goes away in the state. Once it's in, it's always in. It's like taxes. Additionally, what they've added in is the early voting by mail and in person. And the reason why there's a little difference in person for the local level and for the state level is if the state mandated early voting by mail or in person for local level, they would have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So they did not do that. They kind of wrote the language that kind of wormed their way out of paying for the cost to provide those options. Okay, so we have provided the option that has been most used by voters last year, the in mail versus the in person. In addition, by mail, any person under any demographic profile can meet that by just simply obtaining a ballot, whether it's online, in person. They could call our office and we'll mail them out to them. Then they will have the ballots sent directly to their homes, and then they can mail it back or use that nice little drop-off box at the side of town hall. But there are many options for anyone to get a ballot on election day and options to get that ballot cast. There is no area that the inability of a person to cast a ballot does not exist anymore in the state.
Thank you. Any other comments from other counselors? So, okay, seeing none. Sue, can you help with, so I think we need to figure out what our motions are then. How do, if you can provide some guidance, that would be great.
So, Clerk Casey, should we just vote for the 3 first? And then
Okay.
if that one fails, we go to the 6?
Okay, I have prepared for you 3 motions.
Yep,
Okay, they're not in any particular order. Someone can make a motion on, and it's not, it's a recommendation. I mean, what are the 3 options? A counselor will have to make a motion for that option. Then you would have to have a second counselor second the motion, and then you would vote on that particular motion. If that fails, you fail to get a second, then someone else can make a second motion, and the same process applies, or the third. Or the council could just decide no recommendation.
thank you, Clerk Casey. So I'm just pausing to see if Counselor Ryan, does Counselor Ryan want to make a motion?
I'm trying to get a hold of him again. Hold on one second. I may
Yep,
just have to
that's fine.
call him back again. I have him live, but it's not.
That's okay, takes your time. Again, the first night of technical difficulties, which is pretty amazing.
Charlie is back. Counselor Ryan is back.
Counselor Ryan, did you want to make a motion?
Make a motion, we go with the recommended plan from the town clerk, 3 locations.
Do we need to read the whole thing, Sue?
He doesn't have it in front of him. If you'd like, I can read it.
Madam Chairman, yeah, that you could either state as it is listed in your handout, or you could read it completely. It's the choice of the council committee.
So Counselor Ryan is proposing the 3 polling locations, district voting centers as stated.
Correct.
Yep, so moved.
As submitted, yes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second for discussion. I just have a question about, at the end of that motion, it says, and it is further ordered that a home rule petition be filed in the form set forth in the above order for the relocation of District 2B. Is this portion, am I looking at the correct motion that we're voting on?
Yes, that's one complete motion. Let me explain the reason for that. As part of assigning polling locations, they need to abut each other. And Hollis School does not abut District 1A where the high school is located. So a home rule petition would have to be applied for to allow that to happen. During the
So that portion,
during the pandemic, we didn't have to utilize that rule. That was waived, but for a permanent change, we have to do this home rule petition.
okay, so it would just ask that the petition be filed. I understand. Okay.
That's correct.
Just a formality.
Okay, I understand.
So Counselor Flaherty, is that a second to the motion?
Yes, second.
Thank you, Counselor Ryan and Counselor Flaherty. So there is a motion, there is a second for the proposed 3 district voting centers. Everybody good? Okay, so Clerk Semino, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Baraka,
No.
Counselor Ryan,
Aye.
Counselor Connors is absent. Counselor Flaherty,
Yes.
Counselor Sasha.
No.
That's 2 in favor and 2 opposed. It fails. Correct?
That is correct.
So do we move on to another motion, or is that what we send to the full council? Clerk
Well,
Semino?
it'll be up to if any of the members of the committee would like to make another motion on one of the other options, or as I stated, no recommendation, they're allowed to do that.
You can send a non-favorable recommendation to the full council.
It's not a favorable, non-favorable, it's a
Well,
no recommendation.
It's a split.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Does anybody want to entertain another motion for the next option, which is 6 voting locations? I would entertain that motion if I can do so as the chair.
Yes, you may, as the chair.
Is there a second? There's not. Okay.
Second.
Okay. Clerks, so we have a motion made by Counselor Baraka, myself, and a second by Counselor Shasha on 6 district voting locations as submitted. Counselor Shasha?
Technical question, Madam Chairwoman, maybe for Sue. Since this came from the council a while ago, and we already had a public hearing on it, when this goes back to the council, will there be another public hearing?
So I don't believe there was actually a public hearing. It was public comments were allowed by the chair.
Okay, let me explain a public hearing. A public hearing is one that needs to be posted in the newspaper.
Mhm.
And sometimes it requires also notifying abutters. That tends to be more on the zoning issues and such. So if this was going to be a public hearing, a notice in the newspaper would have to be put in place. However, this does not require a public notice. You are presenting this in an open forum at a council meeting, which are all public meetings. So therefore, it is improperly presented to the council.
Right. So when it first came to the council, it was not a public hearing. Public comments were, I just want to clarify this. We had public comments because the public was able to speak at that meeting. When it goes back to the council, it may or it may not have another public comment period.
Correct.
Okay, I want to make one correction. On November 17th, this was before the council for a permanent adoption. However, the council at that time decided that they didn't want to make a decision and to make the changes. And they asked to have another meeting sometime in January or February. So it was there as a permanent change on November 17, 2020. Then it was before the council on February 23rd, because all of the questions that came out of the November meeting were added into that presentation. And one of them was talking about 6 polling locations. It also included, did other communities have consolidated their polling locations and such. So that, again, was a public meeting. It was expected at one point in time on February 23rd that a vote could have been taken by the council to adopt any one of these 3 options or some other option that the council members want to propose. That failed. It was asked to be continued. It was continued to April 27th. At that time, all of those options at a public hearing were in play. And at that time, when a permanent location wasn't made, it was asked that a decision be made for the November 2nd election. So we had some direction on how we're going to operate this particular upcoming election. And that's when the council temporarily approved the district voting centers to December 31st. So this has been properly before the council on 4 occasions for a vote as a public meeting. So it never was just to gather information. It was allow people to come to the meeting, give additional facts. And as you've done on other issues on things, you tabled it to another date and time. And then you had another hearing, I call it a hearing, a meeting, public session at the council level to vote on any particular item. So this follows that same pattern.
Okay, yeah, I get all that. I just, so my concern at this point would be that this has gone on for so long. If this goes back to the council and it does not have the ability for the public to at least comment, I don't think anybody thinks that this is something we're talking about. And I can see from the participation in this call, I think there's one person on the call. I mean, at this point, you have convinced me that 6 can make sense, but there's a process question here. And I'm just trying to clarify this because, I fully support, I second the motion. I just wanted to clarify this public comment piece before I vote on it, because I think that's important to this whole process. Thank you.
Yep. So Clerk Semino, we have to take the vote, right, on the motion?
Yes.
So can we have a roll call vote, please, Clerk Semino? This is again for 6 district voting centers as submitted by the clerk.
Madam Chair, I want to correct you. It's just 6 district voting precincts.
Precincts, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Clerk Casey. Precincts as submitted.
Aye. Hi, hold on. I'm sorry. I keep losing Charlie 1 second. I apologize.
That's okay. You're on mute, Sue.
Yep. Thank you. Counselor, so this is for the 6 voting district voting precincts. Counselor Barrica,
Yes.
Counselor Ryan,
No.
Counselor Connors is absent. Counselor Flaherty,
No.
Counselor Sasha,
No.
1 in favor, 3 opposed, motion fails.
Okay, last call. If anybody wants to make a motion for the 12. Hearing none. So motion to adjourn. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, all 3 of these will be, everything will be presented to the full council.
Okay,
And
yep.
so, okay.
Thank you. Just before we adjourn, I thank you, Clerk Casey. I want to acknowledge this has been a long haul with a lot of hand wringing from all of us. And I know because we all care deeply about the right to vote. So thank you for your patience, for the information, and for presenting this. I think now this is maybe the 6th time. So thank you for that.
I enjoy meeting with you all.
And now do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Thank you, Counselor Shasha and Counselor Flaherty. Clerk Semina, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Barrica,
Yes.
Counselor Ryan. Yes. Counselor Connors is absent. Counselor Flaherty,
Yes.
Counselor Sasha,
Yes.
all in favor to adjourn.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Night.
Tuesday.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.